built with the mystery first hook, refusal-led tension, child catalyst, costly mid-story reversal, financial recovery, quiet vindication, and dignity-centered ending from your uploaded framework. At 4:18 on a Thursday morning, Lucas Brenner stood inside the largest refrigerated distribution center in Ohio and watched $40 million worth of medicine begin to warm. Nothing in the control room suggested a problem. Every monitor displayed green. The freezer temperature held at -20 degrees. Backup compressors were marked ready. Emergency generators showed full fuel. Across the warehouse floor, however, ice was beginning to soften beneath the doors. Lucas placed his hand against the first freezer wall. Warm, he opened the maintenance panel and checked the physical sensor. 7 degrees above the reading shown on the screen. Then, 9. Then, 12. Someone had disconnected the real temperature probes from the company's central network and replaced their signals with numbers copied from a test environment. The system was not monitoring the warehouse. It was displaying a memory of the warehouse functioning correctly. Lucas called the executive command center upstairs. A woman answered. Crownline Operations. This is Lucas Brenner in Refrigeration Control. I need the network isolated immediately. Your contractor identification? Brenner Industrial Systems. Temporary authorization B73. There was a pause. That contract expired at midnight. I'm still inside the building. You should have cleared the premises. The freezer data is false. Another pause. What? The screens say -20. The physical probes are already above -8 and rising. Shut down the central controller and return the compressors to local operation. I'll notify engineering. There isn't time. The executive launch begins in 12 minutes. That is exactly why there isn't time. The woman lowered her voice. Ms. Ashford is upstairs with the board and federal regulators. No system changes are permitted during the demonstration. Lucas looked through the control room window. A red light flashed above freezer chamber 3. The central dashboard remained green. Tell Camille Ashford that if she starts the demonstration. Every connected warehouse may accept the same false data. You may submit a written incident report. In 12 minutes, there may not be a company left to read it. The line disconnected. Lucas took the stairs. 30 floors above him, Camille Ashford stood before a curved wall of screens and prepared to show the world that Crownline Supply Group could see every essential shipment in America. Food, vaccines, blood plasma, insulin, emergency generators, water treatment chemicals. Crownline owned or controlled 117 warehouses, 18 regional trucking companies, 6 air cargo partnerships, and a software platform connecting hospitals, grocery chains, government agencies, and manufacturers across the country. Its market value had passed $11 billion. Camille owned enough voting shares to control it. For 14 years, investors had called her brilliant. For the past 5, employees had called her something else when they were sure she could not hear. Cold, she did hear. She simply did not care. That morning, Crownline was launching Horizon Grid, a centralized command platform designed to coordinate every shipment, freezer, vehicle, warehouse door, and emergency route from one executive center. The company had spent $900 million building it. The federal government was considering Crownline for a National Medical Reserve contract. If the demonstration succeeded, the company would become almost impossible to challenge. If it failed, Crownline's lenders could cancel a financing agreement signed only 3 weeks earlier. Camille stood beneath the blue light of the control wall wearing a charcoal suit and a white blouse buttoned at the throat. Her dark hair was pulled into a smooth knot. No strand moved when she turned. At 39, she had the measured stillness of someone who understood that people search powerful women for visible weakness. She gave them none. Board Chairman Julian Cross stood beside her. Julian had been her father's attorney, Crownline's first outside investor, and the person who taught Camille how to enter a room already certain she belonged there. He was 61, silver-haired, and calm in the way only men with several exits available could afford to be. 2 minutes, he said. Camille glanced at the demonstration sequence. Horizon is ready. The regulators are nervous. They should be. Their current systems are 30 years behind ours. Julian smiled. You sound like your father. That is rarely a compliment. He would have been proud. Camille looked toward the far end of the command center, where a glass display case held a single brass key attached to a faded red tag. Dock 1. The key had opened the first refrigerated warehouse her parents rented in 1988. Her father had given it to Camille the day she became chief executive. He told her every empire began with one door someone was frightened to open. He died 18 months later. Camille kept the key displayed beneath glass because objects were easier to preserve than people. The command center doors opened. Lucas entered wearing steel-toed boots, dark work trousers, and a gray jacket marked with the logo of his small refrigeration company. A security officer followed him. "Miss Ashford," the officer said, "this contractor refused to leave the operations floor." Camille looked at Lucas. He appeared to be in his mid-30s. Broad shoulders. Tired eyes. A small cut across one knuckle. A tool pouch remained clipped to his belt, despite the executive floor security policy. Camille had seen him before. Not personally. His name appeared beneath several objections submitted during the Horizon Grid migration. Local overrides were being removed too quickly. Physical sensors required independent verification. A centralized network could distribute one failure across every site. The reports had been reviewed and rejected. Lucas stepped forward. "The freezer readings downstairs are simulated." Camille glanced at Julian. His expression remained neutral. She turned back to Lucas. "This is a restricted presentation." "I know. Then why are you here?" "Because your flagship warehouse is warming while every screen says it is stable." Several regulators turned toward the control wall. Camille's technology director checked his tablet. "All systems are normal." "They're not. We have redundant sensors. The network is repeating test values." The director frowned. "That is impossible." Lucas looked at him. "The physical probe in chamber 3 reads -7 and rising. The dashboard reads -20. The technology director entered a command. The screen remained green. Camille felt irritation rise. She had spent 3 months preparing this morning. The press waited downstairs. Government representatives had flown in from Washington. Markets would open in less than an hour. One contractor with an expired badge was asking her to halt everything because he had touched a wall and decided it felt warm. "Did you submit an incident ticket?" she asked. "I called operations." "That was not my question." "No, I did not submit a ticket." Then follow procedure. Procedure routes the ticket through the system that is giving you false information. Julian stepped closer. "Mr. Brenner, our engineers have reviewed the platform. They reviewed the dashboard. They built the dashboard." Lucas looked at the command wall. "That doesn't make the freezer cold." Camille's jaw tightened. He was not speaking with the panic of someone seeking attention. He was certain. That made him more dangerous in front of the board. "Security will escort you back downstairs," she said. "Engineering will inspect the equipment. Disconnect Horizon first." "No. If the corrupted profile has propagated, the other warehouses may already be receiving false values." "You are speculating." "I am warning you. You are a refrigeration contractor. I designed part of your original warehouse control architecture 7 years ago. Yes, you no longer work for Crownline. My equipment is still under your floors." Camille's voice became quiet. "You were hired to replace cooling valves, not to interfere in a national systems demonstration. I was hired because the valves kept cycling when the dashboard said they were inactive, and you were unable to complete the repair before your contract ended. The valves were not the problem. Then your report should have said so." It did. Camille looked at the technology director. He avoided her eyes. Lucas continued. "I sent 3 reports. The last one included the mismatched sensor identifiers. Julian spoke before Camille could. The reports were classified as vendor disputes. We can review them after the launch." "After the launch may be too late." Camille stared at Lucas. He reminded her of every employee who believed access to one problem gave them the right to challenge every decision above them. Crownline had not become an empire through hesitation. It had grown because Camille made decisions while other people requested more data. "Your help is not required," she said. Lucas did not move. "Then let me ask one question." "No. Why does the temperature shown on the screen end in the same decimal every 16 seconds? The technology director looked toward the wall. -20.4, -20.1, -19.8, -20.4. The sequence repeated. Camille noticed it. Julian did too. Lucas pointed at the numbers. That is a simulation loop. The regulator nearest the screen stood. The technology director began typing. Security, Camille said. Lucas looked at her. Do not start Horizon. You have made your warning, and you have rejected it. Yes, then put that decision in writing. Her eyes narrowed. You are in no position to demand documentation. No, but when the system fails, someone will claim nobody warned you. For the first time, the command center went completely silent. Camille felt every person in the room waiting to see whether she would tolerate the challenge. She did not. Remove him. Security took Lucas by the arm. He pulled away once, not violently, only enough to remain facing her. Switch the warehouses to local control. Camille turned toward the presentation console. Begin the demonstration. Lucas was halfway through the doors when the first screen turned red. A warehouse outside Indianapolis reported a freezer door fault. Then Detroit. Then Pittsburgh. Then St. Louis. The control wall filled with warnings faster than the software could organize them. The technology director stared at his tablet. Data synchronization failure. Lucas stopped. Isolate the network. Camille looked at the screens. Temperatures at 23 warehouses began changing at once. Some fell far below physical limits. Others rose without triggering alarms. Vehicle routes disappeared. Inventory totals doubled. A hospital shipment appeared simultaneously in 3 states. The regulator beside Camille whispered, "What is happening?" The technology director responded too quickly. "A visual reporting issue." Lucas shook his head. "No, the grid is writing test values into live controls." Julian moved toward the emergency console. "Shut down the demonstration." "It is not the demonstration," Lucas said. "Horizon has already propagated." Camille faced him. "What do you need?" The question came too late, and she knew it. Local managers have to disconnect every warehouse manually. Can it be done remotely? That is the problem. You removed most local authority. We retained emergency control. Through Horizon. The lights flickered. A new warning covered the screens. Remote command conflict. Every freezer compressor at the Cleveland facility stopped. The sound disappeared beneath them. No motors, no fans, only the growing alarms. Lucas turned toward the stairs. Chamber 3 contains pediatric vaccines. The technology director called after him. "Where are you going?" "To keep them cold." The security officer looked at Camille. She hesitated, then nodded. "Go with him." Lucas ran downstairs. Camille remained in the command center while her empire began failing one warehouse at a time. At 5:10, Crownline lost reliable visibility across its central network. At 5:23, a hospital consortium suspended acceptance of every temperature-sensitive delivery until the company could verify storage conditions. At 5:40, a major grocery chain froze payments. At 6:15, federal regulators ordered Crownline to preserve all system data and stop distributing products whose history could not be authenticated. At 7, the company's insurers invoked a cyber operations exclusion. At 9:30, the financial markets opened. Crownline lost $3 billion in value before lunch. Camille watched every number fall from the command center. She did not sit. People entered and left around her carrying reports, cables, phones, and explanations. The board moved into emergency session. Customers demanded answers. Reporters gathered outside the gates. Julian remained near Camille, offering steady instructions. Public statement at 10. We do not know enough. We need to reassure markets. Do not call it a reporting issue. The alternative is admitting operational failure before we know the cause. Our warehouses are warming. The Cleveland team preserved the medical stock. Camille turned. How? A contractor manually restarted 2 compressors and redirected generator power. She knew which contractor. Lucas Brenner? Julian's mouth tightened. Yes. How much inventory? Approximately $18 million. And the other warehouses? Results vary. Meaning? Julian looked at the preliminary report. 4 facilities may have lost all temperature-sensitive goods. Camille stared at the red wall. Where is Lucas? Still downstairs. She left the command center. The flagship warehouse looked different without its machines. Emergency lights cast long shadows across loading bays. Employees pushed insulated containers by hand. Drivers waited beside trucks whose routes no longer existed in the dispatch system. Lucas stood on a steel platform beside the refrigeration controller. His jacket was gone. Sweat darkened the back of his shirt despite the cold. A radio rested against his shoulder while he gave instructions to a technician inside Chamber 3. Keep Circuit B isolated. If the central relay reconnects, pull the physical breaker. He saw Camille approach. His expression did not change. What happened? She asked. Horizon pushed a configuration profile from the test environment. Why did the compressors stop? The profile believed every chamber was empty. They were not. I noticed. She ignored the tone. Can you restore the facility? This one. How long? 6 hours for basic cooling. Longer before the data is reliable. What about the other sites? Depends on whether local staff know how to bypass the network. They were trained. They were trained to use Horizon. Camille looked across the warehouse. The employees moved quickly, but without coordination. Paper labels had replaced handheld scanners. Drivers wrote shipment numbers on cardboard. How many facilities can you guide remotely? Lucas laughed once. There was no humor in it. My contract expired. I am reinstating it. That is not what I asked. I need you to help stabilize the network. You rejected my help upstairs. Yes, and now the company is losing billions. Yes, the answer came without defense. Lucas studied her. Camille had built an entire career by refusing to admit error before she had calculated its cost. That morning, the cost was visible everywhere. I can help local teams restore physical cooling, he said. I cannot fix Horizon. Why? I warned Crownline not to remove the independent controls. Your company removed them anyway. You designed the older system. I designed a system where local facilities could continue if headquarters failed. Horizon was supposed to improve coordination. It improved control. They are the same thing. No. Camille's eyes hardened. You believe this is the moment to lecture me? No. I believe it is the moment to decide whether you want the warehouses working or the hierarchy preserved. She looked at him. Name your conditions. I don't have conditions. Everyone has conditions. I need full access to the local systems, direct communication with warehouse managers, and written authority to disconnect any facility from Horizon. You said you had no conditions. Those are requirements. Anything else? Yes, what? You stop overruling technicians because you dislike how the warning sounds. Camille almost walked away. Then an employee ran toward them. Mr. Brenner? Chamber 5 is climbing again. Lucas grabbed his radio, closed the central valve, opened the west bypass manually. The west valve is sealed. Break the seal. The employee looked at Camille. She understood the question. That valve requires executive authorization, she said. Lucas stared at her. The temperature warning changed from yellow to red. Camille took the radio. Break the seal. The employee ran. Lucas returned his attention to the control board. It was the first time Camille followed his judgment. Neither mentioned it. By nightfall, Lucas had helped restore partial cooling at 11 warehouses. 3 others remained unreachable. At one facility, employees used rented refrigerated trailers. At another, they packed temperature-sensitive medicine into insulated shipping containers with dry ice purchased from every available supplier within 100 miles. The company did not operate through one magnificent command system anymore. It survived through mechanics, drivers, warehouse supervisors, phone calls, handwritten labels, and people who remembered how things worked before the screens told them what to do. Camille remained at headquarters. She took calls from hospital directors and government officials. She approved emergency spending without knowing whether Crownline's banks would honor the transactions. At midnight, Julian entered her office. The lenders have invoked the operational risk clause. Camille remained standing beside the window. How much time? 72 hours to present a recovery plan? And if we fail, they can suspend the credit facility. That would stop payroll. Yes. What does the board propose? Julian placed a folder on her desk. Westlake Commerce has offered emergency financing. Camille looked at the name. Westlake was Crownline's largest competitor. Its chief executive had attempted to acquire Crownline twice. In exchange for what? 49% voting control. No, Camille. No. We may not have another option. We have more than 2 days. The market has already decided this is systemic. Markets decide again every morning. Julian lowered his voice. You need rest. I need accurate numbers. We do not have them. Then find them. He studied her. You sound like your father when he was frightened. I am not frightened. That is not strength. It is vocabulary. Camille looked at the Doc 1 key inside its glass case. Did you know Lucas submitted reports? Julian hesitated. I knew there were contractor disputes. That was not my question. I saw summaries. Did the summaries mention simulated sensor values? They described inconsistencies. Did you read the full reports? No. Who closed them? Technology risk. Under whose authority? Julian's expression changed slightly. The chief technology officer reports to me for launch governance. Camille turned. You approved the rejection. I approved the migration schedule. Did you know the physical sensors did not match Horizon? I knew there were occasional synchronization errors. You told me the platform was ready. It passed every executive test. Because the tests were using simulated data. That has not been established. Camille stared at him. He remained calm. Too calm. You want me to accept Westlake's financing. I want Crownline to survive. Under their control. Survival under imperfect terms is still survival. That sounds rehearsed. Julian closed the folder. The board meets at 7. Be prepared to discuss temporary executive authority. Camille became still. What authority? The governance committee is concerned that the company requires a leader without personal exposure to the launch decision. You mean a leader who did not order Horizon activated? Yes. Who? Julian did not answer. He did not need to. You, Camille said. Temporarily, and you would accept Westlake's offer, if it protects the company. Camille looked toward the darkened warehouse beyond the glass. The empire had not been collapsing for 20 hours. The process had started earlier. Someone had already prepared the rescue before the disaster became public. Julian moved toward the door. You should sleep. Where is Lucas? Still working. Bring him to my office. At 1 in the morning? Yes, he is a contractor. Camille turned. So was my father when you first met him. Julian's face tightened. Then he left. Lucas arrived 20 minutes later. He had changed into a clean shirt but still smelled faintly of coolant and metal. You asked for me. Camille placed his warning reports on the desk. Julian's assistant had produced them after she threatened to suspend the entire technology risk department. The first report described mismatched temperature sensors. The second identified test environment values appearing in live dashboards. The third warned that a system-wide profile could disable local refrigeration controls. Each report had been closed. The final notation read, variance within acceptable operational limits. No impact expected. You were right, Camille said. Lucas looked at the reports. I know. Most employees would have softened the sentence. Lucas did not. Who reviewed them? She asked. Technology risk. Who did you speak to? 3 analysts. 1 director. Then Julian Cross's office. Camille's hand tightened. You spoke to Julian? His chief of staff. What did she say? That the board had accepted the launch risk. I was not informed. Lucas looked at her. You were chief executive. I know my title. Then you were responsible even if someone withheld the report. The word struck cleanly. He did not accuse her of sabotage. He denied her the comfort of ignorance. I offered to inspect the other facilities, Lucas continued. The request was rejected because my company was classified as a local vendor. Why didn't you contact me? I tried. How? I sent the report to your executive office. I received thousands of messages. Yes, you could have called. I did. My office has no record. I reached an assistant who said executive leadership did not speak directly with maintenance contractors. Camille looked away. Her company had been founded by maintenance contractors. Her father repaired refrigeration units in grocery stores. Her mother drove the first delivery truck because they could not afford an employee. Crownline grew because local workers called their home at night whenever something broke. Camille had spent years building barriers between herself and the exact voices that created the company. What do you need to determine whether the failure was accidental? She asked. Access to Horizon's development history. You have it. No, I have operational access. What is the difference? Operational logs show what the platform did. Development history shows who taught it to do it. Camille opened her laptop. I will authorize everything. Lucas did not sit. What happens when we find the answer? We fix the company. That is not what I asked. Then ask clearly. If the evidence points toward someone you trust, will you follow it? Camille thought of Julian. You are already assuming it will. No. I am asking whether trust outranks evidence here. No, Lucas watched her. Good, he turned toward the door. Where are you going? Home, you said the network audit begins at 7. The board meets at 7. Then move one of them. I need your findings before the meeting. I need to take my daughter to school. Camille stared at him. You have childcare. Not in the morning. Hire someone. No. I will cover the expense. No. Your company has lost most of its clients in one day. Still no. You are refusing help. I am refusing to turn my daughter into a scheduling inconvenience. The sentence landed harder than he intended. Camille's face closed. Lucas saw it. He did not withdraw it. I will be here at 7:30, he said. The meeting begins at 7. Then you will have 30 minutes without me. He left. Camille stood alone in the office. The Dock 1 key remained beneath glass. The red tag had faded over 30 years. Her mother had written one sentence on the back in black marker. Check the door yourself. Camille had not read it in years. Lucas drove home through empty streets. His apartment was above a closed bakery in a neighborhood where the streetlights worked only in alternating blocks. His daughter, Sadie, slept at Mrs. Doyle's apartment downstairs whenever emergency jobs kept him late. Mrs. Doyle opened the door before Lucas knocked. You look terrible. Thank you. She waited until 11. I called. She heard the word emergency and decided you were saving the city. I saved some vaccines. Mrs. Doyle stepped aside. Then she was close. Sadie slept on the sofa beneath a blanket covered in yellow stars. A science book lay open on her chest. She was 8 years old and possessed the same direct gaze her mother had used when she believed Lucas was avoiding the truth. He lifted her carefully. Sadie opened her eyes. Did the freezer break? Yes. Did you fix it? Part of it. Did the boss listen? Eventually, that means no. He carried her upstairs. Their apartment was small but warm. Lucas placed Sadie in bed and removed her shoes. She looked at him through half-closed eyes. Is the boss mean? She is under pressure. That means yes. Lucas pulled the blanket over her. She made a bad decision. So did you. What did I do? You said you would be home before bedtime. He looked down. You're right. Sadie yawned. Mom said being important somewhere doesn't make you less important at home. Lucas's face changed. Sadie barely remembered her mother. Most of her sentences came from recordings, photographs, or stories repeated by Mrs. Doyle. Laura Brenner had died 4 years earlier during a winter storm. Not in a hospital. Not after a long illness. She died on a highway shoulder while Lucas was repairing an emergency cooling system at a pharmaceutical warehouse 80 miles away. Laura had called him twice before leaving work. The weather was worsening. Their car's heater had failed. She wanted him to come home. Lucas told her the warehouse held medicine that would be destroyed if he left. He arranged for a mechanic to meet her. The mechanic never arrived. Laura drove. Black ice formed on an overpass. The police officer who called Lucas said the crash was immediate. People later told him he could not have known. That was true. It did not stop him from hearing the second phone call whenever work asked him to remain after he had promised Sadie he would come home. "I remember," he said. "Then go to sleep." He smiled. "Yes, boss." Sadie closed her eyes. At 7:30 the next morning, Lucas entered Crownline headquarters holding a paper cup of coffee and a folded drawing Sadie had placed inside his bag. Camille waited in the operations lab. "You are late." I said 7:30. "It is 7:32. The elevator stopped on 12. "Why?" "Your building systems use Horizon." She did not respond. The board meeting had been delayed until 10 after federal regulators requested attendance. Julian had objected. Camille delayed it anyway. Lucas opened the development archive. Horizon Grid had been built from dozens of systems acquired over several years. Temperature sensors, truck routing software, warehouse access, inventory verification, and customer forecasting had been forced into one central identity structure. The software contained millions of lines of code. Lucas ignored most of them. He searched the migration logs. "Why that date?" Camille asked. "It is when the first sensor mismatch appeared. You memorized the report." "I wrote it." The development record showed that Horizon engineers discovered an instability 12 weeks earlier. When live sensors disconnected briefly, the dashboard sometimes replaced their readings with simulated values used during testing. The problem should have stopped the launch. Instead, someone changed its classification from critical to cosmetic. The authorization carried the credentials of Technology Director Peter Venn. Peter had resigned that morning. "Find him," Camille told security. "He left the country last night," the security director said. Julian entered the laboratory. "You are conducting an internal investigation without board authorization." Camille did not look away from the screen. "I am chief executive. The governance committee is meeting. Then they are busy." Julian looked at Lucas. "This contractor should not have access to proprietary source records. This contractor warned us. He also developed the local systems Horizon replaced." Lucas turned. "What are you suggesting?" "Your business depended on maintaining those systems. My business had 3 Crownline contracts. Contracts Horizon made unnecessary. And destroying your network would restore them?" Julian smiled without warmth. "It would make you valuable again." Camille stared at him. "You believe Lucas caused this?" "I believe we should investigate every person who benefits." "I lost my contract. You gained direct access to the chief executive." Lucas looked at Camille. "Do you believe him?" "No." The answer came immediately. Julian noticed. "Your judgment is exactly what the board is questioning." Camille stood. "My judgment activated Horizon. That decision is mine." Julian appeared surprised by the admission. She continued. "But someone concealed a critical defect, altered its classification, and prepared financing that transfers control to our largest competitor. I intend to determine who." Julian's calm expression hardened. "You have until 10. For what?" "The board will vote on temporary authority." He left. Lucas returned to the archive. "You gave him exactly what he wanted." "What?" "An admission of responsibility. It was true." "Yes." "You sound surprised. I expected you to blame the technology director." "So did I." Lucas glanced at her. That was the first crack, small, almost invisible. At 9:20, Sadie's school called. She had developed a fever. Lucas closed his laptop. Camille looked at him. "Where are you going?" "To collect my daughter. The vote begins in 40 minutes. The development archive will continue existing. We are close. Then you can continue." "I am not trained for this. Your technology team is." "My technology director disappeared. That is not my daughter's fault." Camille stood between him and the door without meaning to. Lucas stopped. For one moment she saw herself from outside, the billionaire chief executive of a collapsing company blocking a father because his sick child had interrupted her crisis. She stepped aside. "I can send my driver." "No." "Why?" "Sadie wants me." Camille's voice became sharper. "She is 8. She will recover from being collected by someone else." Lucas became completely still. The room changed. Camille knew she had gone too far before he spoke. My wife thought I would collect her too, he said. The words were quiet. Camille felt her anger disappear. What happened? Not today. He left. At 10, the board voted to suspend Camille's unilateral authority over any sale, financing agreement, or major operational decision. The vote did not remove her as chief executive. It made the title decorative. Julian became emergency chairman. Westlake's financing proposal moved to formal review. Camille sat at the long board table while directors discussed her company as though she had already left the room. She watched the vote count appear. 8 in favor, 4 against, 1 abstention. Julian closed his folder. This is temporary. So you keep saying, we will stabilize the company and restore authority. After selling control, if necessary. Were the horizon defects disclosed to Westlake? Julian looked at her. Their offer addresses current conditions. That means yes. The board will reconvene tomorrow. Camille remained seated after everyone left. Rosa Vale, her executive assistant of 11 years, stood near the door. Go home, Camille said. So should you. I do not have time. You no longer have the authority to approve anything. Camille looked toward the empty chairs. Her empire had not disappeared in one spectacular event. It had been separated from her through clauses, votes, committees, and people using the word temporary. The screens outside continued showing warehouse failures. Customers left. Banks called. Executives who praised Horizon 3 days earlier now claimed they had raised concerns. Camille watched the company collapse while still sitting inside its headquarters. Rosa placed a sandwich on the table. Eat, I'm not hungry. That has never prevented you from requiring everyone else to work through lunch. Camille looked at her. Rosa had been beside her since the first year after her father's death. She had survived 12-hour days, 2 office relocations, a threatened takeover, and Camille's inability to say thank you without making the words sound like a performance review. Did you know about Lucas's reports? Camille asked. Rosa looked down. One entered your executive queue. And? It was categorized as facilities maintenance. Why didn't I see it? You told me not to send facilities matters to your desk. When? 3 years ago. Camille remembered. A warehouse manager had copied her on 37 repair emails during an acquisition. She had instructed Rosa to filter anything that did not involve more than $10 million. How many warnings have been filtered? I don't know. Find out. Camille, find out. Rosa remained still. What? You are still trying to solve the problem as though the company failed to deliver enough information to you. It did. You instructed it not to. Camille looked away. Rosa continued. Lucas came upstairs. He stood in front of you. He said the freezer was warming. I know. You did not reject a report. You rejected a person. Camille's voice hardened. You are free to leave. I know. Rosa picked up the sandwich. I am also free to remain and tell you when you are wrong. She placed it closer. Eat. Then she left. The development audit resumed that evening from Lucas's apartment. Sadie's fever was mild. She lay on the sofa beneath a blanket while watching a nature documentary with the volume low. Lucas worked at the kitchen table using a secure laptop Crownline had delivered. Camille appeared on the video call. She was still in the boardroom. You look terrible, Lucas said. That is the second time someone has told me that today. Who was first? My assistant. She sounds competent. She is becoming insubordinate. Maybe competent people do. Sadie looked toward the screen. Is that the boss? Lucas muted the call. Sadie, she looks tired. Camille's voice came through the speakers. I can hear both of you. Lucas had pressed the wrong button. Sadie sat up. Are you the lady who didn't listen? Camille stared at the screen. Lucas closed his eyes. Sadie, this is a work call. That means yes. Camille's expression remained unreadable. What is your name? She asked. Sadie Brenner. How old are you? 8. You should be resting. I am resting with questions. Lucas moved the laptop farther away, back under the blanket. Sadie obeyed reluctantly. Camille watched her. You brought her to work calls? The work call entered our kitchen. That is the distinction she would make. She gets it from her mother. Camille looked at him. He did not elaborate. The audit revealed that the critical defect had been reclassified using Peter Ven's credentials at 2:13 on a Sunday morning. Peter's travel record showed he was on a flight at the time. Someone had used his executive certificate. The change originated from the command center. How many people had physical access? Camille asked. Executives, security, cleaning staff, systems engineers. Julian? Yes, that proves nothing. No, you think it was him. I think he knew enough to prepare Westlake's financing. Camille looked toward the Dock 1 key in its glass case. Julian invested in Crownline before we owned a second warehouse. He can still betray you. He carried my father's coffin. He can still betray you. He saved the company after my mother died. Lucas stopped typing. What happened to her? Camille's face closed. Not today. The words mirrored his. He accepted them. At midnight, Lucas found another record. 6 weeks before the Horizon launch, a full-scale failure had occurred during an internal test. 11 warehouse simulations lost local cooling control. The result had been stored inside a restricted archive called Continuity Review. Access required 2 executive certificates. One belonged to Peter Venn. The other belonged to Camille. I never approved this, she said. Your certificate did. I keep the hardware key in my office safe. Who can access the safe? Rosa and me. Anyone else? Julian knows the emergency code. Lucas looked at the command origin. The approval came from Dock 1. Camille stared at him. What? The physical network address is labeled Dock 1 Legacy. She looked toward the brass key. Crownline's original warehouse had been converted into an archive and training center. The building remained outside Cleveland, unused except for annual employee events. The old server room still carried the first Dock's network name. Why would Horizon Records be there? She asked. Legacy systems sometimes store immutable backups. We shut that site down. Apparently not completely. Lucas saved the record. We need to inspect it. The board restricted my access. You own the property personally. My father placed it in a family trust. Who controls the trust? Camille hesitated. Julian. Lucas leaned back. Convenient. The next morning, Crownline security officers arrived at Lucas's apartment. They carried a warrant. Someone had reported that he possessed proprietary system data without authorization. Sadie stood in the hallway while officers collected the Crownline laptop, Lucas's business computer, 2 external drives, and his phone. One officer opened the metal toolbox Laura had given him on their first anniversary. Lucas stepped forward. That contains personal equipment. It is listed in the warrant. Sadie held his hand. The officer removed an old refrigeration controller and placed it inside an evidence bag. Then he found a security token beneath the foam lining. Crownline Executive Certificate. Peter Ven's credentials. Lucas stared at it. That is not mine. The security officer photographed the token. Sadie looked up at her father. What is it? I don't know. The officers escorted Lucas outside for questioning. Reporters were already waiting. Someone had notified them. Sadie stood beside Mrs. Doyle at the apartment entrance while cameras recorded her father entering a police vehicle. Lucas looked back once. It was the same look he imagined Laura must have had while driving into the storm. I should be with you. Camille learned about the arrest during a live television report. The headline appeared beneath Lucas's photograph. Contractor investigated in Crownline collapse. The report claimed he had used his previous access to insert corrupted control profiles and then offered his services during the resulting crisis. Julian entered her office carrying printed evidence. The executive token was found in his toolbox. Planted, you do not know that. He led us to the altered certificate. Because he knew where it was. Camille looked at him. You were waiting for this. I was hoping we would identify the cause. No, you were waiting for a suspect. Julian placed a second document on the desk. Westlake had improved its offer. It would provide immediate financing, guarantee payroll, and assume liability for spoiled products. In return, Westlake would receive 51% voting control. The board planned to approve the agreement at 6 that evening. You created an emergency, Camille said. Julian's face remained calm. That is a serious accusation. You concealed Lucas's reports. I received summaries. You controlled Peter Ven's launch review. I chaired governance. You knew the test had failed. You have no evidence. The record is stored at Dock 1. For the first time, Julian's expression changed, only for a fraction of a second. It was enough. Camille stood. You knew the server existed. Julian recovered. The original warehouse contains archived systems. You told me everything had been transferred. Most of it was. You used my certificate. No, you had the safe code. So did Rosa. Do not involve her. Why? Because loyalty is only evidence when it protects you? Camille stared at him. He continued, You are defending a contractor whose toolbox contained the stolen key. Because the evidence appeared exactly when you needed the board to approve a sale. You are no longer reasoning. I rejected his warning. I will not reject the evidence because it embarrasses me. Julian lowered his voice. Camille, your father built Crownline to survive. Westlake can preserve most of it. Most? The medical division. Core regional warehouses. Major customer contracts. The rural distribution routes? Not profitable. The emergency food program? Government subsidies have declined. The local repair teams? Duplicated under central management. Camille looked at him. You already negotiated the cuts. We discussed integration. Before the failure. Julian did not answer. You needed Horizon to succeed or collapse, she said. Either outcome gave you central control. That is not true. If it succeeded, local divisions disappeared under governance. If it failed, Westlake purchased the company. I was managing risk. You were choosing who would own the result. Julian moved toward the door. The board votes at 6. If you accuse me publicly without evidence, they will remove you completely. He paused. Your father trusted me. Camille looked toward the brass key. My father trusted too many men who reminded him of himself. Julian left. Lucas was released after 8 hours. The police did not charge him because Crownline could not prove he had ever possessed Peter Ven's token before the search. His business license was suspended. Every client canceled. His accounts were frozen, pending a corporate civil claim. He returned to the apartment after dark. Sadie waited at the kitchen table. She did not run toward him. That hurt more. Lucas removed his jacket. Hey, are you going away? No, you don't know. No, he admitted. I don't. Mrs. Doyle stood near the sink. I'll make tea. She left them alone. Sadie looked at the empty space where his toolbox had been. They took Mom's tools. I'll get them back. You don't know. No, you keep saying that. It is the truth. Sadie's eyes filled. Was the boss right about you? No, does she believe you? Lucas thought about Camille firing him through silence. He had received no call, no message. I don't know. Sadie stood. She is scared. So am I. Then why are you both acting angry? Because fear is easier when it has somewhere to point. Sadie wiped one eye. That sounds like something Mom would say. She did. Did Mom get angry before the crash? Lucas became still. Sadie had never asked directly. She was frustrated. With you? Yes. Why? I stayed at work after I promised to come home. Sadie looked down. Was she alone? Yes, like I was today. The question cut through every defense Lucas had built. He sat across from her. Yes. I don't want your important work if it makes you leave. He reached for her hand. She allowed him to take it. You are more important. You say that. You're right. That is not what I meant. Lucas closed his eyes. I know. A knock came at the apartment door. Camille stood outside. No driver, no security, no executive assistant. She wore a dark coat over the same suit and held the red tag Dock 1 key in one hand. Lucas stared at it. How did you find my address? Your contract. That contract seems to contain everything except protection. I am sorry. Sadie appeared behind him. You're the lady who didn't listen. Camille looked at her. Yes, did you tell the police Dad did it? No. Did you stop them? No, why? I was too late. Sadie studied her. You are late a lot. Lucas turned. Sadie, no, she made you stay at work. Then she let them take you. Camille accepted every word. Yes, Sadie's voice shook. People keep saying sorry when they mean they cannot change what happened. Camille looked toward Lucas. His face revealed nothing. Sometimes that is what sorry means, Camille said, but it should also mean they change what happens next. Sadie crossed her arms. What are you changing? Camille held up the brass key. I am going to prove your father was framed. Lucas looked down the stairwell. You should not be here. I know. The board is voting in 43 minutes. Then go stop them. I need the Dock 1 server. You have technicians. They report to Julian. Call federal investigators. By the time they obtain access, the sale will be signed. So you came to the accused contractor. Yes, why? Because you were right. That is not enough. No, what else? Camille's voice lowered. Because I rejected your help when accepting it might have saved the company. Then I watched my empire collapse while the people who caused it used my decision against you. Sadie looked between them. Are you asking Dad to save it? Camille turned toward her. No, then what are you asking? For him to help me find the truth. Sadie shook her head. That sounds the same. It isn't, Lucas said. Sadie looked at him. Why? Because she is not promising me anything for doing it. Camille looked down at the key. I can promise legal protection. No. Payment? No. Restoration of your license. You do not control that anymore. The honesty surprised her. Lucas stepped into the hallway. What happens if we find the server? I take the evidence to the board. And if it proves Julian did nothing, I accept that. If it proves he did, I remove him. Even if Crownline still collapses? Yes. Sadie looked at her father. Go, Lucas turned. You just told me work was not more important. It isn't. Then why? Because you'll stay angry if you don't finish. That is not a good reason. Sadie stepped closer to Camille. Can I come? No, both adults said. Sadie frowned. Camille crouched slightly so they were closer. The warehouse may be unsafe. Then Dad shouldn't go either. That is fair, Camille said. Lucas looked at Mrs. Doyle, who had returned to the doorway. The older woman nodded. I'll stay with her. Sadie took a folded piece of paper from the table and handed it to Camille. It was a child's drawing of a warehouse with dozens of doors. Only one door had been colored red. What is this? Camille asked. Dad said your company started with one door. Camille looked at the red door. Sadie continued, you keep trying to save all of them. Maybe start with the first one. Camille held the drawing carefully. That was the wall-breaking moment. Not because the child gave her strategy. Because Sadie named the thing Camille had been unable to admit. She was still trying to control the entire empire while possessing authority over almost none of it. One door remained. Dock 1. A place built before boards, algorithms, executive filters, or men who called surrender protection. Camille placed the drawing inside her coat. We'll bring him back, she said. Sadie looked at Lucas. He has to choose that too. Camille nodded. Yes, the original Crownline warehouse stood behind an abandoned rail spur near Lake Erie. The brick building carried a faded sign from the company's first name, Ashford Cold Storage. Snow had begun falling when Lucas and Camille arrived. The parking lot was empty. Camille inserted the brass key into the side entrance. It did not turn. Lucas examined the lock. Corrosion, can you open it? With force. That key is 38 years old. So is the lock. Do not damage it. You want the door open or the object preserved? Both. That is how expensive failures begin. She looked at him. Open it. Lucas applied lubricant and worked the key slowly. The lock released. Inside, the warehouse smelled of dust, wood, and old insulation. Their flashlight beams moved across empty loading bays. Painted numbers remained above each dock. 1, 2, 3. Camille had spent part of her childhood there. Her mother kept a folding chair beside the dispatch desk and let Camille sleep beneath a winter coat during late deliveries. Her father repaired compressors with tools borrowed from another contractor. The company's first invoices had been written by hand. This was smaller than I remember, Camille said. Most childhood buildings are. You sound experienced. My father owned a repair shop. What happened to it? He believed expansion was the same as success. Borrowed too much. Lost it. Did you blame him? Yes. Were you right? Partly they reached the old server room. A new electronic lock covered the door. Julian had upgraded it. Lucas examined the panel. It uses executive certificates. Camille held up the brass key. Then why did we bring this? Lucas pointed at a small mechanical slot beneath the panel. Because people used to understand that software fails. The key turned. The server room opened. Rows of modern storage units stood inside a building that had supposedly been inactive for years. Green lights flashed. Someone had been using Dock 1 as a hidden continuity archive. Lucas connected a portable reader. The system requested Camille's executive token. She had brought it from the office safe. Access denied. Your credential was revoked after the board vote, Lucas said. Can we use Julian's? We don't have it. Camille looked at the original brass key. The red tag contained a small metal plate beneath the faded label. She turned it over. Her father had added it years earlier. A physical security chip. Lucas removed the plate carefully. Legacy founder credential. Will it work? Let's find out. The server accepted it. Files appeared. The Horizon failure test. Sensor mismatch reports. Executive communications. Westlake financing drafts created 2 months before the launch, and an authorization log showing that Julian Cross approved the reclassification of the critical defect. Camille read the record. He knew. Yes, he knew the system could fail. Yes, did he cause the live failure? Lucas searched. The launch profile had been pushed from Dock 1 at 4:16 that morning. 2 minutes before Lucas called upstairs. The command used Peter Venn's stolen token. A camera inside the server room had recorded the person authorizing it. The video opened. Julian stood beside the console. He inserted the token, approved the profile, then looked directly toward the camera. Not accidentally. He knew the recording existed. He wanted this discovered, Camille said. Lucas understood. After the sale. Julian planned to blame Peter Venn initially, force Crownline into Westlake's control, and later expose Peter as a rogue executive. He would appear to have saved the company from sabotage. Lucas continued through the files. A second folder contained the records used to frame him. His employment profile, business debts, access history, photographs of his toolbox taken during earlier Crownline contracts. The executive token found in his apartment had been prepared before the failure. Camille lowered herself into an old chair. Lucas had never seen her sit from exhaustion. Why you? She asked. Because I filed the warnings. He needed the person who could identify the defect to become the person who caused it. Yes, I called you a maintenance contractor in front of the board. Yes, I made the accusation believable. Lucas did not rescue her from the truth. She looked around the server room. My father trusted Julian. Your father could be wrong. So could I. Yes. Do you ever soften an answer? When it helps. This does not? No. Camille looked at him. Laura was your wife. Lucas became still. Sadie mentioned her mother. Yes, what happened? He looked toward the server lights. The confession came without drama. Laura called while he was working. He chose the warehouse. A storm took her life. He had spent 4 years pretending his refusal to leave work was the same as causing the crash. Camille listened. She did not say it was not his fault. He already knew the argument. What did the warehouse contain, she asked. Insulin? Did you save it? Yes, how much? Enough for several thousand patients. And if you had left? I don't know. That answer bothers you. Yes, because there is no version where everyone was safe. Yes. She looked down at the key. My mother died here. Lucas turned. Camille's gaze remained on the floor. Not in the warehouse's later years. In its beginning. Camille was 17. A compressor overheated during a summer night. Smoke entered the office where her mother had fallen asleep after a double shift. The fire alarm had been disconnected because it produced false alerts. Camille's father knew. He planned to replace it after the weekend. He survived because he was making a delivery. Her mother did not. My father blamed himself, Camille said. Then he built Crownline as though size could protect us from small failures. And you continued. I made everything centralized because local mistakes frightened me. The company rejected my reports because your structure classified local information as noise. Yes, you did what your father did with the alarm. Camille closed her eyes. Yes, no defense. No anger. That was the second crack. Lucas copied the server archive onto 3 encrypted drives. One went to federal investigators, one to Crownline's independent directors. The third remained with Camille's attorney. They left Dock 1 at 5:52. The board vote began at 6. Camille joined from the passenger seat of Lucas's truck while he drove toward headquarters. Julian sat at the head of the board table. "Where are you?" he asked. "Returning from Dock 1. His face changed. Camille transmitted the files. Several directors opened them simultaneously. Julian remained still. "You accessed trust property without authorization," he said. "I used the founder credential. That credential was retired. It opened the door. The records may have been altered by Mr. Brenner." Lucas kept driving. Camille looked into the camera. The archive contains signed commands from your certificate, security video, communications with Westlake, and the prepared evidence used to frame him. Julian's voice became colder. "You are relying on a man under investigation. The investigation is based on evidence you planted." The board's legal advisor interrupted. "Federal authorities have confirmed receipt of the archive." Directors began whispering. Julian looked around the table. "We should adjourn until the material is authenticated." Camille said, "You wanted a vote. Not under these conditions. These are the conditions you created." The government representative appeared on a second screen. Crownline had been ordered to preserve every system and suspend Julian's access pending investigation. The Westlake financing vote could not proceed. Julian's control ended before the truck reached headquarters. No dramatic confrontation. No speech. His screen went dark after security entered the boardroom. Camille watched the empty chair. She had imagined betrayal would feel like anger. It felt like grief without a funeral. The evidence saved her from Westlake. It did not restore Crownline. The company still faced spoiled inventory, lawsuits, regulatory penalties, lost customers, suspended insurance, and an operational network no one trusted. Its share value had fallen 72%. Banks refused additional loans. Analysts predicted bankruptcy. Camille stood before the employees the next morning. Thousands watched through temporary video links. She did not begin with Julian. She began with herself. "I was warned that Horizon could distribute a local failure across our entire network," she said. "I rejected the warning because it came through channels I had taught this company to ignore." Managers watched from warehouse break rooms. Drivers listened from truck cabs. Technicians stood beside equipment they had operated manually for 3 days. "I activated the system." Camille continued. Julian Cross exploited its weakness, but he did not create the culture that made his plan possible. "I did." Rosa stood beside the camera. Lucas watched from the back of the room with Sadie. Camille had asked him to attend. He agreed only after she told him the event would end before dinner. "I cannot promise Crownline will survive in its current form," Camille said. "I can promise we will not survive by rebuilding the same structure that failed." She announced 3 decisions. Horizon Grid would not return as a single centralized controller. Every warehouse would regain independent operational authority. Local safety warnings could no longer be filtered by executive assistants, risk categories, or financial thresholds. And no major system would be approved without sign-off from the people expected to repair it at 2 in the morning. The company still needed money. Camille refused Westlake. Instead, she proposed dividing Crownline into a cooperative operating network. Employees, hospital customers, regional food distributors, and public infrastructure funds would purchase non-controlling shares. Camille would surrender part of her voting power. The board would include warehouse managers, drivers, engineers, and customer representatives. Investors called the plan desperate. It was. Banks called it unconventional. It was. Workers called it the first plan that remembered they existed. Within 4 days, hospital networks committed emergency funding because they needed Crownline's roots. Grocery cooperatives joined because rebuilding the system was cheaper than replacing it. 3 states offered loan guarantees for medical distribution. Employees approved temporary wage adjustments after executives accepted larger reductions. The plan raised less money than Westlake had offered. It raised enough. Lucas led the technical recovery, but refused an executive title. Camille tried 3 times. Chief Resilience Officer. No. Executive Vice President of Distributed Operations. Absolutely not. Director of Infrastructure Integrity. Sounds like I inspect bridges. You are impossible. I have a company. You had a company. Lucas looked at her. Camille realized the cruelty in the sentence. I'm sorry. He waited. She corrected herself. Your business was damaged because of Crownline. Yes, I will pay restitution. No, why? Because that would turn my future into your debt. It is not debt if I caused the loss. You contributed. Julian caused it. I dismissed you. Yes, then let me repair something. Lucas looked through the glass wall. Sadie sat in the temporary operations room drawing colored routes across a map. Build the new system correctly, he said. That does not compensate you. No, it gives the loss a purpose. Camille stared at him. People should not need their losses to have a purpose. No, then why say it? Because sometimes it helps us carry them. Camille offered a proper independent contract. Lucas rewrote the schedule. Work ended at 5:30. No weekend calls unless human life was at immediate risk. Sadie could enter any operations center where Lucas worked. Camille accepted every condition. The new platform was named Crownline. Sadie chose the name. Horizon looks far away, she explained. Ground is where people are standing. Camille approved it before the branding department could object. Crownline did not pretend headquarters knew everything. Each warehouse operated locally and shared verified information with the larger network. Physical sensors had to agree with digital records. When they did not, the system displayed uncertainty instead of a reassuring false number. Technicians could stop automated commands, drivers could report impossible routes, warehouse workers could challenge inventory totals. No executive could erase the warning merely by changing its category. The first successful test took place at Dock 1. The old warehouse reopened as a training and verification center. Camille brought the brass key. The red tag remained faded. Sadie carried the drawing of the red door. Before the test began, she looked at the glass case prepared for the key. Why are you locking it up again? Camille paused. It is valuable. Because it opens the door? Yes. Then why keep it where nobody can use it? Lucas looked at Camille. She removed the glass case. The key was mounted beside the entrance on a simple hook. Available, not worshipped. The first Crownline test deliberately disconnected the central network. Every warehouse continued operating. Local teams verified temperatures manually. No medicine warmed, no routes disappeared, no system turned uncertainty into green. The test lasted 31 minutes. When it ended, the operations room remained quiet. Camille looked at Lucas. Did we pass? 27 facilities reported delayed synchronization. That sounds like no. They kept functioning. So yes? It means we found 27 things to improve without losing control. Camille smiled. That is an irritating answer. It is accurate. Sadie stood between them holding 2 cups of vending machine chocolate. Are you 2 partners now? Lucas looked at Camille. We work together. That is not what I asked. Camille took 1 cup. What do you think we are? Sadie considered it. People who argue like they expect the other one to stay. Neither adult answered. Sadie nodded. That means I'm right. The relationship changed slowly. Camille began joining Lucas and Sadie for dinner after Dock 1 testing days. At first, dinner came from restaurants and arrived in boxes requiring 3 different sets of utensils. Sadie declared the food too organized. They moved dinner to Lucas's apartment. Camille sat at a kitchen table with 1 uneven leg and ate Mrs. Doyle's baked pasta. She helped Sadie build a model warehouse from cardboard. She learned that Lucas checked the front door lock 3 times before bed. The first time, she said nothing. The third time she asked, "Is it ever open?" "No, then why check?" Lucas looked toward the framed photograph of Laura on the shelf. "Because I was not where I said I would be once." Camille understood. She checked financial dashboards for the same reason, not because the numbers were always wrong. Because one ordinary night, a disconnected alarm had changed her family forever. "Does checking help?" she asked. "No, Then why continue? Does watching Crownline's share price every 10 minutes help? No. They looked at each other. Sadie appeared in the hallway. You both do scared things and call them work. Camille laughed. Lucas did not. Then he did. It was the first evening Sadie saw him laugh with another woman. She noticed. Children always did. Months passed. Crownline did not recover in a straight line. 2 major customers never returned. A class action settlement cost hundreds of millions. Several warehouses were sold. Executive offices were closed. The private jet disappeared. Financial newspapers stopped calling Crownline an empire. Camille did not object. Empires were built around centers. Crownline worked because the center could fail. 1 year after the collapse, Crownline reported its first profitable quarter under the new structure. The company's value remained lower than before Horizon. Its network was stronger. Warehouse injuries fell. Spoilage decreased. Emergency deliveries became faster because regional teams no longer waited for executive approval. Lucas rebuilt Brenner Industrial Systems with more work than he could accept. He hired former Crownline technicians and gave them authority to reject unsafe jobs without losing pay. Camille invested nothing. That mattered to both of them. She became his first Crownline customer, not his benefactor. Sadie began leaving drawings in Camille's office. One showed 3 people standing beside a warehouse. Camille asked why Lucas and Sadie were holding hands while she stood slightly apart. Because you're still deciding, Sadie said. Deciding what? Whether you live at work. I have a house. That wasn't what I meant. Months later, the second drawing showed all 3 figures beneath the same red door. Camille did not ask. She understood. The final regulatory hearing occurred 18 months after the collapse. Julian Cross faced federal charges for securities fraud, sabotage, evidence manipulation, and conspiracy. Peter Venn cooperated with investigators and admitted that Julian had pressured him to conceal the failed test. Julian's attorneys argued that he intended only to force a controlled restructuring before Crownline became insolvent. The argument failed. Camille testified for 3 hours. She did not present herself as the innocent founder betrayed by a single villain. She explained that Julian exploited a system she had centralized, a culture she had silenced, and a weakness she had been warned about. Reporters asked whether she regretted trusting him. Yes, she said. One asked whether she regretted trusting Lucas. No. Why? Because he never asked me to trust him instead of checking the evidence. Julian was convicted. Camille did not attend the sentencing. Quiet vindication was enough. That evening, she went to Dock 1. Lucas was finishing a compressor inspection. Sadie sat on the old dispatch desk doing homework. The brass key hung beside the entrance. Camille placed her handbag down. Do you ever stop working? Lucas looked at the clock. 5:20. You have 10 minutes. You sound disappointed. I brought dinner. Sadie looked up. What kind? Pizza, normal pizza? Yes, not the one with leaves? No leaves. Sadie approved. They ate on the loading dock while snow began falling outside. Camille looked across the empty bays. My father used to sit here with invoices spread across the floor. Did he pay them? Eventually, my father also used that system. Sadie finished a slice. Were both your dads bad at money? Yes, Lucas said. Camille answered at the same time. They were ambitious. Lucas looked at her. She sighed. Yes, they were bad at money. Sadie smiled. After dinner, she wandered inside to call Mrs. Doyle. Camille remained beside Lucas. What happens when Crownline no longer needs you every day, she asked. It already doesn't. You still come. My company maintains the systems. That was not what I meant. Lucas waited. Camille had negotiated national contracts with less difficulty than the next sentence. I rejected your help because accepting it felt like admitting someone outside my authority could see something I could not. Lucas said nothing. When the company collapsed, I believed I had lost the thing that made people stay. Did they? Many left. Some remained. Yes. Why? She looked toward the warehouse office where Sadie was laughing on the phone. Because they were never staying for the thing I thought. Lucas turned toward her. What do you want, Camille? The use of her first name felt more intimate than any compliment. I want you to come to dinner when no system is failing. I already do. I want Sadie's drawings in my house. She draws everywhere. You are making this difficult. I want you to say it clearly. Camille looked at him. I want a life with you. No corporate language, no conditions, no promise of perfection. Lucas considered the word slowly. I want that too. How long? He smiled. Tomorrow, her eyes narrowed. That answer remains unacceptable. Then the day after tomorrow. Lucas, one day at a time does not mean temporarily. She studied him. What does it mean? That staying is a decision, not a sentence. Camille reached for his hand. He let her take it. Their first kiss occurred beside a loading dock beneath a broken exterior light that Lucas had been meaning to repair for 6 weeks. Sadie returned at exactly the wrong moment. She stopped. Finally, Lucas stepped back. You were supposed to be calling Mrs. Doyle. I did. Camille looked toward the office. That was a short call. Sadie shrugged. She said you two needed privacy. Lucas closed his eyes. Mrs. Doyle is no longer receiving emergency contact privileges. She also said you would say that. Camille laughed. The sound filled the old warehouse. For years, Dock 1 had been a monument to where Crownline began. Then it became evidence of how the company nearly ended. Eventually, it became something more useful. A place where new managers learned that no dashboard outranked the physical world. A place where technicians could stop a launch. A place where warnings remained visible until someone answered them. The faded red key stayed on its hook. Employees used it during training. The brass darkened where hundreds of hands touched it. Camille could have placed it behind glass again. She did not. Years later, people summarized the Crownline collapse in ways that made the story easier to sell. A brilliant chief executive ignored a working-class father. Her empire collapsed. He returned and saved it. Those words fit inside headlines. They did not fit the truth. Lucas did not save Crownline alone. Drivers saved shipments. Warehouse employees broke seals and opened valves. Hospital managers provided emergency financing. Technicians rebuilt systems without waiting for permission. Customers chose to invest rather than abandon the network. Camille saved part of it by admitting that control and responsibility were not the same. And Sadie saved something no financial report could measure. She made 2 adults explain their fear without hiding it inside work. Camille had rejected Lucas's help because help had always arrived with a hand reaching for control. Lucas resisted Camille's help because dependence reminded him of promises he had failed to keep. Both believed refusing people made them safer. They were wrong in different directions. The empire collapsed because Crownline stopped listening to the ground beneath it. It recovered when the people at the center became willing to hear the edges again. Not through a miracle, through correction. The local alarm was restored. The physical sensor was checked. The executive door was opened. The warning stayed visible. And the woman who had once believed leadership meant never needing anyone learned that accepting help did not reduce her authority. It revealed what the authority was for. One winter morning, Camille arrived at Dock 1 before sunrise. Lucas stood beside the original freezer wall checking a sensor. Sadie, now 12, sat at the dispatch desk drawing a route map for a school project. Camille touched the wall. Cold, Lucas looked at her. That is usually the goal. The dashboard says minus 19.8. He handed her the physical gauge. Check it yourself. She read the value. Minus 19.8. The numbers agreed. Sadie looked up. Are you done checking the freezer? Yes, can we leave? Lucas closed the panel. Camille reached for the red-tagged key. Who locked the front door? I did, Sadie said. Did you check it? Once Lucas looked impressed. Camille looked suspicious. Are you certain? Sadie smiled. You two can check it 3 more times if you want. They walked toward the entrance together. Lucas switched off the warehouse lights. The control system remained active. Local, verified, quiet, Camille locked the door and hung the brass key on its hook inside the glass vestibule where the morning crew could reach it. Outside, snow covered the old loading yard. Crownline's trucks moved along the highway beyond the rail line. Not an empire anymore. Something better. A network that knew how to continue when the center failed. Lucas took Camille's hand. Sadie walked between them, complaining that both adults moved too slowly. Behind them, the temperature stayed cold. The alarm remained ready. The door had been checked. And this time, when the warning came, someone would listen. This was not a rescue. It was refusal. Lucas refused to let an executive title make a false number true. Camille refused to let betrayal turn surrender into strategy. Together, they refused to rebuild a system that valued control more than people. Her empire collapsed. What replaced it was smaller, stronger, and finally worthy of the workers who kept it alive. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and share it with someone whose warning was ignored because of their title, uniform, or place in the room. Then tell me in the comments, would you have walked away after Camille rejected your help, or returned when everything began to fall?